Alright, hello everybody, how you doing today? Fred Langley here. Here's Ray. Ray, wave please. Ray is the kitchen manager here at Pizzeria DePaoli, and just so you know, Ray is pretty legit. He runs about a 20% food cost, and one of the reasons for that is what he's going to be showing you today. We have all the mise en place ready here for our focaccia bread. So many of you are buying your bread from bakers, and it's costing you small fortunes per year. We're talking anywhere between some of you $10,000 a year to $60,000 and $100,000 a year in purchasing bread, depending on your volumes. So Ray is starting here. He's got warm water. I will provide the recipe to go with this. He's got warm water for the yeast. It's really important. Well, let me go through every ingredient here. So here we got chopped up rosemary, fresh rosemary from the garden. What's that?
That's for actually the topping.
Okay, so here's for the topping, and then we have dry for the inside, for in the dough. Then here is a mixture of, you'll see there's layers over here. We got the dry active yeast, instant dry active yeast, sugar and salt. Then we have the oil for the focaccia, and we have caramelized onions as well here. Here Ray has warm water. The actual temperature of the water should be is 105 degrees. That is the right temperature for good yeast growth, because yeast is alive. The sugar is actually less for flavor as well. It's for the yeast to basically the yeast eat it, and that's how the yeast is able to grow and expand. So you don't have to get a thermometer out for the water. Just know that your body temperature is 98 degrees. So if you just touch the water, if it's close to your own body temperature, you're good to go. Then we have 15 pounds of flour here. So you want to go ahead and get started mixing them, Ray. Now it's really important. Here we have all-purpose flour, and Ray's putting in the yeast, sugar, and salt mixture. One of the things is we're using AP flour, and we're going to do pizza dough later, and talking about the difference between high gluten flour and all-purpose flour is the protein content. Now for the focaccia bread, we don't want to be really chewy. We want to be more of a fluffy textured bread, which is why we're using AP flour, which is a lower protein flour. There's in AP flour, there's 9 to 10 grams of protein, and that will make it to where the gluten in the flour will develop a little bit less than, say, a high protein flour that we're going to use for the pizza dough. The gluten developed in the dough is what makes it chewy, and so like I said, we want a little bit fluffier type. So the yeast has been activated in the warm water. Ray is putting in the flour in the mixture. Now when I give you the recipe, we're actually doing a ×3 batch recipe, and this is going to make us 9 half sheet trays of focaccia bread. Goes in with the hook. The cost on this is going to be the flour. It's 15 pounds of flour, and it's costing $5.25. 3 3/4 ounce of dry active yeast is costing 45 cents. 3 3/4 ounces of sugar costing 39 cents. 3 ounces of salt costing 30 cents. 24 cups of warm water. Then we have 9 ounces of caramelized onions. So he's putting the dry rosemary in there to flavor it. Now here's the part where you can change it to fit your restaurant. Say maybe you're not an Italian restaurant, but you want to have your focaccia meet your style. So maybe you're a barbecue restaurant. Maybe you put some of the barbecue spices in here, or only the caramelized onions. Just make it fit your concept a little bit better. Ideas for barbecue restaurants, maybe even cornbread would be a good item to use as well instead of focaccia. The point is to get you making your own bread and to show you how easy this can be. All right, back on down the recipe, which I will provide. Don't worry about it. 3 ounces of olive oil. Ray's going to add to there, and then the caramelized onions cost us 54 cents, and the olive oil costing us $1.20. The total cost of this batch of dough right here is $8.13, and it will yield 9 trays of focaccia bread. The 9 sheet trays are going to cost, it's going to be 90 cents for an entire sheet tray of bread, which we cut up into 6 portions and slice it to serve table side. And it ends up being 15 cents per table. Not just 15 cents per person, 15 cents per table on the bread. You can see the dough here is soft and loose. It's not a real tight dough, so it's going to kind of it's going to need the mold of the sheet tray to bake it. It's not one of those free-form doughs that you would do as well. So Ray, how long do you think? One thing that's great about this is notice that Ray is continuing to work while the focaccia is being mixed. So make sure in your staff you don't have the person that has to lean on the machine to make it work while they're doing. That's the great thing about the focaccia is that you'll be able to have the focaccia mix while you begin doing other things. So Ray here he's laying out the sheet trays. Ray, how much does each focaccia weigh in the sheet tray?
I don't know.
You don't know, so you just divide it up in the 9.
We divide each. Actually, I do. I'm sorry. Each one is 3 pounds 2 ounces.
Okay, 3 pounds 2 ounces. Okay, I knew you knew that.
Yeah.
You were thinking I was asking the whole batch. Right?
Yeah.
Right. So he's getting the half sheet trays ready here. How long would you say it proofs? Is it different every day? You have to do it by feel, or is there?
Yeah, actually, basically once we get ready here with the trays and everything, that should be mixed up, ready to go, and that's about it. Weigh it out, separate it, and as far as the amount per day, it really depends. On Monday we may do only a single batch, which is only 3, and Fridays, Saturdays we may do up to 12.
Okay.
So
Right.
yeah, it's just kind of a feel and a prediction.
Great. So some of you bigger restaurants that have higher volumes, we let it proof and we bake it and we keep it on a speed rack. Those of you with bigger kitchens should actually look into investing in one of those proof cases, to where you could get your bread in the proof case and get it ready to bake off. It would be worth the investment to do it. To buy, I honestly don't know what a bakery would charge for a sheet tray of focaccia bread, but I'm guessing you're looking at probably anywhere between $5 and $6, which to them you're looking at like 3% food costs. Which is how a bakery is able to make money, and most of a bakery's cost goes into their labor to do it. And you can see Ray's already been working about 8 minutes now, and he's just about done with the focaccia. Cool. So, start to see the dough starting to come together. Mix it. You can see it's a real loose dough. All right, so we'll let that mix, and then we'll come back to when Ray's ready to portion them out. See Ray's laid down parchment here, and he's spraying it with a little bit of Vaseline. Keep it from sticking. The parchment paper just makes it a whole lot easier to get out later on.
One thing I'm doing right now is this is what I'm going to be using to weigh out the dough. It's 3 pounds 2 ounces. The dough is very sticky, so a lot of Vaseline, is pretty good. You want to put it on here so it doesn't stick as you slide it onto your sheet trays. And also, I'm ready to just about to get it out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some on my hands.
Great.
That looks good. Looks like it's all ready to go.
So I think it mixed, looking at the time, we're looking at mixing in about 6, 7, 8 minutes total time. You can also see that the mixer that we have here, we can do a lot larger recipe in the batch. We're just making what we need, though. What's the weight again? 3 pounds, 2 ounces?
3 pounds, 2 ounces.
Okay. Ray, how long have you worked here? Because Ray worked here before I bought the place 2 years ago. How long were you there?
I want to say about 6 years altogether.
6 years. Ray's. If you look at our Facebook page, you'll notice our fans mentioning him often on there. He's a celebrity here in Windsor.
Just in Windsor?
Just, yeah. I don't know if anybody out there has heard of Ray already. Let me know. Give me a call. You will be meeting Ray. Ray couldn't make the last workshop, so some of you attending the September workshop will hopefully get a chance to meet Ray then.
See, it starts to get real sticky. So you just want to add.
There you go.
A little more. Eventually.
We get back to answering the question from here. How long do you think it will take to proof from this point?
If you have a proofer, it'll probably be about 15 minutes. What we do is we put it on our stove tops over here to get a little bit of the heat from the pilots, and it takes, I would say, about 15-20 minutes.
15-20 minutes.
Yeah. I do prefer a proofer.
Yeah.
It just seems to make it rise a little more even.
Great. You can see it's tight in here. Room for a proofer. Don't even know where we would put it at this point. Too. So. But it just goes to show you that even if you don't have everything you need, you can still get done what you need to get done, too. And like I said, going back to the cost, if you can believe it, the whole tray of bread here, 90 cents. 90 cents. So just start examining what you're paying for bread and compare that to the cost. And then not only that, this is better. You can control how much you have on hand. A lot easier than having to place your bread order. You control the quality. You're not going to have to worry about it showing up burnt at your door. I know I've had that happen in the past. And you get to sell this to your customers. This is our house-made focaccia made fresh in the restaurant each and every day. We don't offer the focaccia at lunch unless people ask. So it's one of those things that we just saw a lot of waste with it. It's not so much a cost factor, but we saw a lot of the focaccia going back into the trash. So we will offer it if people want it during the day as well. But every single table right away gets it too. It's also one of those things. There's a debate back and forth on, it's like you go into a Mexican restaurant, you almost expect to have the chips on the table. More fine dining, you want to wait till the order is placed before you bring bread. Casual atmosphere, you have families, you have kids that are super hungry. We have a policy in this restaurant that we bring the bread with olive oil and balsamic right away. People are used to it that way, and just waiting doesn't really fit, especially when you have hungry children there. All right, so you can see just about perfect. Ray emptied out the whole batch there, and we got our 9 trays. All right, so we're going to give Ray a chance to wash his hands, and then we'll come back to the bread. Alright, so Ray's washed his hands, we're back. A little bit more vegeling on his hands. Sprayed vegeling over the top of the dough. Now he's just going to form it out. And there's the signature thing you see in focaccia, the dimples in there from the fingers going in there. Can hold little pockets of oil and go out there. One thing that's really nice too is you're baking fresh bread here in your place. You're making things from scratch. You're getting down to the roots of cooking. People sometimes forget, just because of the way society has grown over the past couple of years, that making your own breads and doing these things yourself is pretty easy and possible. And things have gotten so specialized over the years that people have just gotten used to, well, bread is just one of those things that I buy. And even making this at home is something that's really not that difficult. You can make a one tray at home. It could last you an entire week. You can make sandwiches, paninis, the whole deal. That's the other thing. We use this focaccia to make our paninis as well. We were using a ciabatta bread to do it, but I actually had somebody comment the other day that they had meatball sandwich on the focaccia and absolutely loved it. So to stick with that is an important thing and listen to your customers.
And also incorporate it with other things. We use it with our shrimp scampi. We do the focaccia triangles. Put it around the plate. Looks really nice. And something about the flavor with the focaccia. I know with ours, with the rosemary and a little bit of the onions, it just brings out a lot of flavor and a lot of stuff.
It fills the restaurant. I mean, even outside, out the hoods, the baking fresh bread with the rosemary, the onions. It's I know we're in a mixed-use building here, and people live upstairs, and they comment that they absolutely love the great smells coming out of the place as well. Now, we're able to use our day old for the scampi because we're toasting it, right? We're brushing with a little garlic and butter, or garlic and olive oil, and toasting it from there. So we have use for our day old as well.
And if you have any recipes that do call for breadcrumbs, we make meatballs, and we'll use a day old focaccia to put in there.
That's great. That's a great tip. When you're making your meatballs, what can make them really make that meatball really tender is to soak the bread in milk and add to your meatball mixture. And it's a byproduct, but you can get a much higher yield by adding that much milk-soaked bread to your meatball, and it makes a better product. So you're getting better cost, and you're making a better product as well, too. And sometimes, there's so many different areas where just getting down and cooking and not buying things in, that they're really easy, especially you seasonal places that have, that when you get into the winter times and your businesses get really slow and then you're really busy during the summer, well, you can keep people employed by buying less things in, keep those employees working on doing real cooking and not standing around waiting for the next order to come in, and you're hitting your prime cost numbers. Your labor is going to be higher, but your food cost is going to plummet doing these types of things. Would love your feedback on how making focaccia in your restaurant goes for you. If it goes well, we'll be providing lots of other recipes. We will be providing our pizza dough recipe coming up shortly as well. Thanks for all your help, Ray. We'll come back when we finish baking some off. Hold on. Here we go.
So right now we're going to go ahead and put the toppings on. We put a little caramelized onion and some fresh rosemary. One thing I failed to mention before, when you're actually pushing the dough out, it's actually very simple, and it's really hard to mess up. But yeah, if you happen to have like some low areas, all you pretty much do is you go from the center or wherever is a high spot, and then kind of level it out. It's a very forgiving recipe, and it's actually really easy to do. So right now I'm just sprinkling some caramelized onions on top. I'm going to come back and spread them around a little bit. Actually, the oils from the caramelized onion actually help the top of the focaccia from becoming dry. So it's nice to spread it around a little bit.
So here's where you can change this recipe to fit your own concept. Maybe it could be some cheese and shaved red onions. What are some other, different spices? Maybe it can be oregano. Whatever you think is fitting for your place and to make it unique to you. Or you just do exactly what we've done. Caramelized onions are it's one of those things that requires a little bit of labor, but almost costs next to nothing once you've got your product. And growing rosemary, you can grow that just about anywhere. Get a plant, get it started. It's almost like a weed. Sometimes you gotta really trim it back. It just takes off. It's one of those things that'll take care of itself, and you can grow it just about anywhere. Beautiful. It smells absolutely wonderful in here. The smell of the rosemary is just coming out, and it's not too strong. Sometimes rosemary can have that, too much rosemary can almost have that medicinal smell, but this is really fitting. It balances with the bread. Really nice, and it's really good. People love our bread. We're not a bakery either, but sometimes people will just come in and buy a whole sheet tray themselves. And there you go with that 3% food cost. $5 or $6 for a 3% food cost isn't too shabby. If you look at that in terms of prime cost, you could have a 50% labor and be just fine. Great. Just another strategy that we're using here in California to battle that $8 minimum wage we have out in front for our servers. All right, so Ray's letting them over there. So now over here, are we too concerned about the pilot lights, or is that going to be just fine?
It'll be fine.
Because we're looking at 10 or 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Too much longer. It's going to be. So you want that. You need to find that area in your kitchen. Maybe it's on top of ovens. Wherever it is, that nice warm spot that you have to get this proof in. We're looking, you want this to rise and rise quickly as well. Those look beautiful, Ray. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, it may vary, times. What I look for is once the dough starts to rise and come close to the top here, then I know I'm pretty much done. I can throw it in and bake it. Sometimes it does come up to 15 minutes, depending on the day. Even if the weather's a little warmer outside, it may rise a little quicker. I'm not real sure what the climate is where everyone's at, but it may actually proof a little bit quicker.
Great. All right, we'll come back to it when it's time to bake them. Thanks, Ray. Okay, so here we go. These are proof. You can see from where we showed before that the bread is risen to the edge of the pan there. This one's actually, it's a little bit cooler up here, so you can see that it probably has a little bit more rising to do up here, but these ones down here over the oven are proof. So it's like what Ray said, it'll go faster in a proofer box. What were you saying, Ray, about 10 minutes?
This was about 10 minutes.
Okay. Great. And what do we have? The oven's about what, 400?
It's actually 375.
Okay. But convection.
Yeah.
With the convection fan.
375, and you probably want to start out doing 12 minutes. Like I said, these things vary, and ours is very right now. It's varying a lot, the temperature. So you want to start off for doing it for about 12 minutes. I know for ours, it'll take about at least 15 minutes.
Okay.
But I would start out a little slower, check it, and once you get that nice, golden brown on top, then you know you're ready.
Great. So the whole time that these have been proofing, Ray's been able to work on other things. So he has we're going to be going and looking over the pizza dough recipe, and there's no reason to have to stand and watch the bread rise. So. the focaccia's bacon. Ray's starting off here. He's got his mixture. Oh, one of the things we didn't mention before was these mixtures they can be done ahead of time. Like you can do containers of the yeast. And oops, sorry.
Yeah, you can do containers of the yeast and the bread to where it's all set. You can have five ready or a couple ready, for 2-3 days even. And all you need to do is just pour it in. It takes the time out of having to measure it. That's something people can do in the kitchen, or even front house staff can help out during slow times. It's just weigh these things out, get them all ready. That way, when the person comes in the morning or whatever to do them, it's just throwing everything in all at once.
Great. That's a good tip. So one of the difference here is Ray has the sugar, salt, and yeast added. Ray is adding cold water here this time. When the focaccia, we wanted to really activate the yeast and get it going. Ray used cold water this time to make the pizza dough because we age our pizza dough for 24 hours at the minimum, up to 2 days. Age it so it develops flavor. Now, if Ray had used warm water, when we put this into containers for proofing or get a portion for proofing, it would proof too fast. And we actually want to inhibit and slow down the proofing. Aging the dough develops a flavor. And then also, it develops a flavor, but it also helps to develop the gluten as well for chewy consistency. Now this is Cisco brand flour. This is Superlative, right?
This
right?
is
Superlative.
We do order from Cisco.
Okay. Now what Superlative flour is this is a high gluten flour, which, like I talked about before, this is a higher protein flour. You're going to find 13 or 14 grams of protein in this flour, which is going to make the gluten develop more. Now this, I'll be able to actually demonstrate and show you what the gluten looks like when it's forming. Now developing the gluten is what is going to give the pizza dough its texture. It's going to give you that chewiness, that pull apart feel. If you're looking like at a French baguette, that's a high gluten bread to do it. On the opposite end of the spectrum, just a tip for like cake flour. A lot of people think that cake flour is finer, but cake flour actually has low gluten. So you're looking at AP flour being 9 to 10 grams of protein, high gluten flour, which is also called, what were you saying, big loaf on the East Coast? You call it big loaf. But basically what you're looking for, no matter what the brand of flour or whoever it's from, you're looking for a high protein, high gluten flour. So with cake flour, you're looking at 6 grams of protein, which means that when you're mixing it, you want to mix it less, and you also want to make sure that when you're mixing cakes and things so that they stay nice and fluffy, that you're not mixing them. Now, when we're getting here and looking into the flour, you can always see that with this high gluten flour, the strings that you see developing, that's the stringiness of it, that is the gluten starting to develop in the flour. And the more you mix it, the tougher it gets. So that's why when you're making muffins or cake or anything, you want to barely mix it till the ingredients are combined. But in this case, when we're making pizza dough, we want a nice, really chewy texture, so we get a nice crisp dough that has a really nice pull apart there too. So you can start to see all the strings sort of develop in there for the gluten as well. Now Ray's adding the oil. You can see it's a much more dense dough than the focaccia that we did earlier. Now the cost on this, Ray put in 3 ounces of yeast, which cost 34 cents, 9.5 ounces of sugar, which cost $1.04, 9 ounces of salt, which cost 26 cents, 3 ounces of oil, which cost 52 cents, 34 cups of water, cold water, and 30 pounds of the high gluten flour. Superlative from Cisco is the brand that we use this time around. The total cost of the entire batch is $13.44. It comes out to 1.7 cents per ounce. So a 20-ounce piece, 20-ounce portion for a large pizza dough costs 34 cents. And what's our large? Is that a 16-inch pizza?
It's a 14-inch pizza.
That's 14-inch pizza at 20 ounces of dough. So that costs 34 cents for the dough. Then we have 12 ounces for our medium, and that's a 12-inch pizza. And then the small is a 9-inch pizza, and we use 6 ounces of dough for that, which costs 10 cents. So it's 10 cents for a small, 20 cents for a medium, 34 cents for a large. Pretty low food costs, especially when we're getting $18 for a cheese pizza as well. So you can start to see the dough's pulling away from the side. The hook is kneading it. Now, this can be done in smaller batches by hand as well. It doesn't need, if you don't have one of these machines, you can definitely do these. And the same with the focaccia. It can be done with a bowl, mixing it. It's a lot easier to use the machine to do it, and you can do other things while you're doing it. Any other tips on this, Ray, or is it just
just one thing, going back to the focaccia. Once we put the focaccia in, then we started doing something else. So we really don't have to sit there and wait for for it to be completed. You can jump from project to project, multitask on things.
So kind of like when we put the pasta water on, we don't have to watch it boil.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so by the time that this is ready and I'm stretching it out, our focaccia should be done at the same time.
Great. Should we take a look at the focaccia? See how it's getting close. So it's not quite there. You can see. I don't know if you can see on camera, but it's not quite. It's getting cooked, but it's not quite golden brown yet. Great. It looks wonderful. Oh, it smells so good. Here's another tip. What we have here. These are left from last night. We actually ran out of focaccia last night because we got so busy, which is a great problem. So what they did here is they, to make sure that we have bread for the restaurant, they took the large pizza doughs, just patted them out and put the rosemary and onions over the top. And there you go, you got some a makeshift focaccia bread there too. So this is just the pizza dough in free form, olive oil over the top, caramelized onions, and rosemary. Great. Ray, how long do you think this is going to have to need? Because this needs a lot longer than the focaccia does.
I would say about 15 minutes.
15 minutes, okay. Let it go. It's great. You can really start to see the dough come together. The gluten. So I'm going to get in real close here. You can start to see the stringiness and the way it pulls apart. Hopefully that's not making anybody dizzy. But that's the gluten developing, and that's going to give it its chewy texture. And once again, cold water so that we can age it for up to 24 hours. And that's aged in the walk-in as well. So it inhibits the yeast growth, develops the flavor slowly, and makes a nice chewy pizza crust that has a nice little bubbly texture on the outside of it. Good stuff. All right. Come back when the focaccia is ready. All right, so I'm in the walk-in here, showing that here's the tray where the pizza doughs are at, and Ray as well has some doughs out here that he's from yesterday to show you. So these are the 12-ounce dough, and we proof them in the trays that stack on each other, like I just showed you in the walk-in. And basically, if these start to overproof, you can just reball them, right?
Yeah, you can reball them. And
then they'll start to proof again and go from there. Ray was just mentioning to me about what he does as well. Is right here we have these croutons here that Ray has taken the pizza dough, made a baguette out of it, baked the baguette, and then slices the croutons.
Yeah, from there. Yeah, just make the baguette. We actually let it get dry a little bit, and then it makes it easier for slicing. And we also toast it with butter and a little garlic on it.
Great. So we brush them after they're sliced. We brush them and go from there. So these would be good for Ray's done sandwich specials using the bread dough from our pizza. It's basically like a French bread dough. Is exactly what it is. But just the type of flour we're using and how we age it out and do everything. So what you've made sandwiches with it.
Sandwiches, dinner rolls with the smaller ones, a smaller ball.
Yeah.
Breadsticks. All kinds of stuff.
Great. So the dough is going from there. All right, so the dough here, you can see it's pulling away from the sides really nice. It's a nice tight batch of dough. By tight meaning it's really started working. You can see it's starting to stretch out here, and see the stringiness here. Those strings right there, that pulls away like that. That is the gluten developed, and you can see it's really tough and tight. And as the dough starts to relax, that's when it's going to allow you to stretch it out and go from there. Here's a timer.
almost getting there.
Almost there. Almost getting the golden brown there on the bottom. Great. Ray, how long do you think the pizza dough lasts in the walk-in? For those people that maybe they don't do pizza as much as we do, what's a good time frame for it?
I would say about 4 days is pretty easy. What'll happen is if it sits in there for a little long, like Fred was saying, it just kind of starts to grow and spread, and all we have to redo is reball it up again, and it'll be good for another couple of days.
Great. There's not really a risk of it like going bad, just a matter of keeping it in the right form and going. Actually, the longer the better. The more. Yeah. That's great. So you restaurants that maybe pizza is not a primary thing that you're selling, it's an appetizer, it's something that's a good profit item for you to make. You can make it in small batches, keep it in the walk-in. If you don't have these trays, you could even just use sheet trays and cover them with plastic to start and go from there. Ray, what are some of the things that we use the croutons for? If you could tell everybody.
We do hot artichoke dips. Sometimes we'll make soup specials that we put them on the sides. We do them on certain salads.
So it's pretty useful and costs us next to nothing.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah.
Too. Great. Bruschetta specials, even the focaccia could be used for that.
Yeah.
As well. Great. You can see the dough comes out of there really clean. It's a lot different than the focaccia as well. And the total weight, I mean, you can see how dense this dough's gotten. It will rise. I mean, the dough balls. It'll be good for you. It'll be really good to see, what the size of a pre-proof ball is for them as well, too. As well. But this was 30 pounds of flour, 2 gallons of water. It's a lot of product, and you can see that even if you're making pizza as an appetizer on your menu, just in smaller batches, that it's not going to take up a whole lot of room. If this batch was cut into quarter, it'd be fairly easy to do by hand if you don't have a mixer, and you still got a great cheap product to do. Just push me out of the way, no problem. Ray's just got the knife out. Once you get the first couple weighed, it's a lot easier to hit the right target. Now, this dough is really cheap, all right? The reason that it's weighed is for our consistency and product. It's the same thing with a lot of things. We weigh all of our pastas out, not because pasta costs us a ton of money, but because we want to have consistency of product, and we want to control. If you're using more pasta, you're using more sauce, and it looks like there's less protein and less vegetables, and all the other ingredients doing. So, any tips on what you just did there as far as making the ball?
Yeah, I like to turn it into itself, and you really want to try and get some of the air out of it.
Great.
And then there's a lot of times where on the bottom you're going to have a hole, and if you just kind of pinch that up and seal it up,
great.
It makes a big difference when you're trying to stretch it, and then all of a sudden you got this big hole in the middle of your pizza.
It'll tear. Oh, great.
Yeah,
great, good tip.
So yeah, pinch it, make sure you're solid on the bottom there. Yeah, like Fred was saying, you can tell the difference. I mean, this has been probably proofing overnight, and this is a fresh dough ball.
Right. Too. And then this is much tighter. There's no way you could roll this out as it is right now. There's no way.
Right.
It's so tight, but it has to relax. And from here, it's just much softer, and that's when you're gonna be able to roll out. We have a thinner pizza crust on our menu, so if you like thicker, then you're gonna have to make the adjustment. But even for appetizer type, it's thinner. So it looks like almost
there.
So you can see one of these proofing boxes here. Ray's able to fit. How many large pizzas can we fit?
We fit 6 large in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 12 of the mediums, and 20 of our personals.
20 of the personals. And a lot of times for the personals, you can just cut the cut the mediums into the 12-ounce ones in half.
Oh yeah,
correct?
absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah, and like Fred was mentioning something about thinner crust or thicker crust. If we do a thicker crust, we'll jump up to the next size. Say it's a personal that they want as a thick crust, we can use a medium. And same way in reverse, if they want a thin crust, a large thin crust, we'll use a medium and just overstretch it, get it real nice and thin.
Can you show the screens that we use, and then also how the screens we use for the kids make your own pizza as well?
So here's our 3 size screens here.
Okay. So the consistency in making the pizza, and we go right over the edge of that, right? We don't just go...
Yeah, right over the edge. You don't want it to go too far over. We use these screens with a convection or a conveyor oven. So as it's going down, if it's a little too far over, what's going to happen is it's going to kind of come underneath and it's going to stick a little bit. So you want it right over the edge.
So if you're doing a pizza stone, you can go directly on your pizza stone using a little bit of semolina. But in our case, we're doing this for our space, and we have to have this convection oven to do it. Are you gonna go ahead and do a personal?
Yeah.
Personal. So for speed as well, Ray could throw it up in here and do all that spinning and stuff. But actually, for speed, we have this. What's it called, Ray? The sheeter.
The dough press.
Dough press. Okay. So it just makes it a lot faster in making it. We get better consistency with it, and just it improves speed as well. So Ray here has you can see he's going over the edge here, and this is exactly what he would do for like a kids make your own pizza. It's able to go out on the screen. The kids can make their own pizza using a docket here. The docket so you don't get little air bubbles popping up and pushing all the toppings to the side. It goes over the edge. The dough goes out on a tray, just like that. They get their little side of sauce, side of cheese. They make their pizza right there. Bring it back. We're able to take it straight from that pan and put it on the conveyor and go from there.
And for our style of pizza, because it is a thinner crust, another reason why we don't toss it up is as you're tossing it up, it gets thinner in the middle and thicker on the sides, which is great. You know, for some pizzas, I think the brick oven pizzas or the stone pizzas are good. Just for ours and the way it is, and using these screens, if it's a little too thin, it may stick to the screen.
Stick to the screen. Great. So it's
and
great to have a nice
actually,
consistency.
doing it by hand without throwing it up, it makes it a little more even all the way through.
Yeah. So you don't have the big edges on the crust.
You don't have the super fat edges on the crust and a very, thin center. You pick it up and
that's great. And that's one of the things that people like about our pizza as well. Ray, can you? I'll check your focaccia for you. A little bit longer, just a touch longer. One thing to talk about the way we do our pizza too is we always put our cheese down first, which makes it so you don't have to make the pizza, but we put our cheese down first and then use a bottle to squirt the sauce over the top of that. And one of the things that does is makes it to where when you bite into the pizza, you're getting taste of sauce with each bite, but all the toppings are not coming off into your mouth with it. It's really something that I learned myself from Ray, and I've never seen before.
And it actually enhances the flavors of all the different toppings. And the really secret is with the thinner crust is not to use a whole lot of toppings. If you throw a lot of toppings on, usually 1 or 2 flavors will dominate everything. Sauce, same thing. If you use too much sauce, you don't taste the other flavors. What we do is we put our cheese, we sprinkle our sauce on, and then we put a nice amount of toppings on it, but we don't overdo it, and that way you can taste the pepperoni, you can taste the cheese, you can taste the dough, you can taste all the different ingredients that are on it.
Great.
All the different toppings.
Great, that's good advice. Thanks, Ray.
No
Looks
problem.
like the focaccia is ready.
Take a few of them out here.
Yeah, a couple of them ready, not all of them. And you can see the difference there. One there. For very little effort, well, I shouldn't say little effort, lots of loving care, but for minimal effort, fairly easy to do, easy to train, you have
Very cost effective.
Very cost effective. That tray of focaccia right here costs 90 cents. It's going to vary based on what you're paying for your products, but 90 cents for a whole tray of bread is pretty darn good. And we actually cut this into 8, right? Not 6.
Yeah.
I did my calculation, so it's actually costing less than 15 cents per. So we're looking at about 11 cents per table
so,
going out too. So that's great. And even when we do a sandwich size, it's 1/8 of that too. So you're looking for 11 cents into your bread for a sandwich. That's pretty darn good. All right, great. Thanks a lot, Ray. Appreciate it.
Hey, no problem.